You've tuned into the Relationship Therapy Podcast with Tony Miller Sr., a podcast designed for couples who are married, couples who are dating, and have marriage in their future. We will guide you to the principles that will make your relationship better. Stick around. You might just learn something that will help your relationship last longer, grow stronger, and become healthier. Now, here's your host, Tony Miller Sr.
Hello, everybody. This is Tony Miller Sr., your host of the Relationship Therapy Podcast, and I've got a treat for you. I'm excited because I have my son, Dale Miller, and his wife, Eleny, joining us on this episode. It's going to be awesome. And I'm just excited about what is going to come out of this. We're going to talk to them about relationships, even though my son Dale is also a host of his own podcast. So you want to talk about leadership. So in our show notes, we're going to have his information down there so that you can also catch up on his podcast. So let me introduce you to my son, Tony Miller Jr., we call him Dale, and my daughter-in-law, Eleny Miller. How you guys doing?
Doing pretty good. How about you?
Doing well. How are you, Dad?
Doing good. Thank you guys for taking time to appear on this podcast, especially this episode. What I'm going to do, we're going to kind of freelance. We're going to ask a few questions, and I know based on your answers, we may even have some extra questions to go along with that. Is that okay with you guys?
That's cool with me, man. You know, I'm short and to the point, so you don't have to worry about me extending out the answers.
That's a joke.
He's already telling jokes,
right?
Especially about that short-winded part. But this is what we're going to do. I want you to tell my audience about who you are, Dale and Eleny, and what you do for a living, and that way we can kind of get a little snippet of who we're talking to this week.
Okay. You want to go first?
No, go ahead, and you got it.
All right. Well, they say ladies first, but I'll go. Well, my name is Tony Miller Jr. As my dad said, I'm his son. He gave me his name. I currently serve as the Director of Student Conduct and Title IX Coordinator at the University of Montevallo, located in Montevallo, Alabama, about 30 minutes south of Birmingham. I've been working in higher ed for about 7 years now. I really enjoy doing what I'm doing. And ultimately, I plan to be in this career for a nice little while. It's been good to me, and I'm going to try to go as far as I can in it, and we'll just go from there. I guess that's me, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Eleny?
I am Eleny Miller. I sometimes want to say Eleny Miller Jr. for some reason. I am a mother of now 2. So we are expecting our second child in a few weeks, y'all, like 6 weeks. So it's coming really fast, but excited about that. I'm a teacher, middle school teacher. I teach middle school math. And so that was a whole process getting there, but it's something I enjoy doing. It feels like a calling. So yeah.
Yeah, and I guess since she's a mother, that makes me a father. So I didn't mention that.
Hey, man, you heard that old saying, though, mama's baby, daddy's baby.
Right?
Yeah. Well.
Wait, but he looks too much like you, Mr. Miller, for it not to be.
You call that insurance.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get down to the questions, guys. And again, I thank you for being with me in this episode. So let's start with this first question. How long have you guys been married?
It'll be 7 years in July. So we have that number of completion, but we've been together, which will actually be 9 years this November, but officially married July 24th.
Okay. Well, since you've been together, what have you noticed that you two have in common?
I think so for me, and I noticed this honestly before we got married. It was like one of the first things I noticed about even on our first date. We just have like our outlook on life is very similar. The way we look at career, the way we look at religion. I remember being on our date and it felt like this was someone that 10, 15, 20 years from now, like I could see being his life partner. And that was the first time for me that I've experienced something like that. And so I just think, I don't know. You know how you have like something viral happens on TV or like in life or something, and then you're like, oh, I just want to talk to somebody about it. I always feel like we're going to be on similar pages. Like we have that similar just kind of outlook on stuff.
Okay. Yeah, she covered it. I would say really our faith, obviously, we're both ambitious. We're both competitive in nature. We're both very, very stubborn. She's a little more stubborn than I am.
Oh, yeah.
I bend a little bit more. But I think just really the love that we have for each other, and that she mentioned really just the connection at the beginning. We've been able to vibe it out since then. And so, yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah, that's what I say.
Good. Well, let's flip that question. What is the major differences between you two? You know, in every couple.
Oh, I can easily say this.
Go ahead.
This is going to sound so bad. My temper is worse than his. I get angry much quicker than he does. However, my display of it is different. It's not, I can hold it in a little faster. So how that plays out in our marriage is he is much quicker to dive into, like, if we have an argument or something like that, which happens. So he's much quicker to like push into it and want to deal with the conflict at the time. And I'm the type of person like, I need you to give me some time, because if not, I don't know what I'm going to say. And that's going to be a problem within itself. So I just feel like the way we communicate is different. And a lot of that has to do with just our temperament.
Yeah. And I would say even the way we were raised is a big difference, just because obviously Dad, you know how we were raised, and we talk a lot of junk and we do a lot of joking amongst ourselves, versus with Eleny's family, that's not really how they communicate. And so that was an adjustment. That's a big difference between the two of us. And I'd also say I'm much more outgoing than Eleny is. Granted, she can do it. It's just she just
so drained.
She just doesn't like doing it. But those are some of the, I would say, major differences, and even some of the reasons why, because of we are who raised us, or where we are, or what we're raised in. And I think that we see that lived out daily, and we've seen it throughout our time together as a couple.
Yeah. I just recently did a premarital counseling sessions, and in that particular session, I talked about the environments that you're raised in playing a major part in with the relationship, especially if they are vastly different. If you were raised in a similar background, it doesn't affect your marriage that much, but it does affect it if you have come from totally different backgrounds. Great. I appreciate those answers. Well, let's get a little deeper. Is there anything that you've discovered, Eleny, about Dale after marrying him? Something that you didn't know beforehand. What have you discovered about him?
He's trying to structure it now. He's saying, you go first. Structure it.
So, I'd say we learned a lot about each other before we got married. So it was hard thinking about this. It's kind of hard to come up with an answer. But if I had to say anything, he is much more loyal as a person than I realized he was. And so, like, not just to me, I don't even think that's how I realized it, just to other people. He's the type of person that if he says he's going to do something, he's committed to that. I'm not that type of person. Like, if I can do it and I say I'm going to do it, But I also learned from him, I don't commit myself. He commits himself to stuff all the time. But because I like that quality about him and his commitment, I've learned, okay, just don't commit to stuff and you'll never have to disappoint people. But that loyalty about him I knew that was there. Obviously, that's why I married him in part, but just seeing it play out in his day-to-day life is amazing. And then a little annoying because it's like, really? So, I would say that.
Okay, that's good. Okay, Dale, your turn.
Man, I feel like the answer I have, it's not as good or as lovey-dovey as hers, but one thing, my answer to that really is, she really mean when it comes to, like, when she sleep, or like in being around sleep, but I didn't know that before. So I try to talk to her. She sleep.
Listen, I tell you,
she be talking crazy at night.
And there's a certain point where I'm like, I'm not responsible for what I say to you, so you better leave me alone.
And so, but honestly, it's really like she said. We knew so much. We shared so much about each other. We always joke while we were dating how we were like 3 to 4 weeks ahead of where we were supposed to be in our relationship because we shared so much with each other that first day, and just the different steps we took. But I mean, Dad, you know the story, and when I first saw her and all this different things like that. But just I guess so y'all know a little bit about my wife, so y'all do know she's not perfect. When sleep is in her purview, when it's close to her, she's not the nicest. As if I'm being silly or just trying to talk to her, I do get a little bit of that sleep, that sleep rag. So
okay, good. I like that. I like that. I think Eleny, I'm like that when it gets close to sleep time. I either get real silly or I get real serious about my sleep. So
like, leave me alone. That's how I feel.
I consider myself a sleep connoisseur, so I understand what that is.
I know.
Okay, and this is for either one who wants to answer, and the second person can chime in. What do you believe is the biggest foundation or some of the biggest foundations of a successful marriage?
Well, since he's looking at me,
I always got an answer. So
of course, I'd say it has to be, I think, commitment. And that sounds so like vanilla, but not like lust, not like, oh, I love this person so much, but like a commitment that transcends all of this, that says, despite X, Y, and Z, despite things changing, our lives changing, I'm going to be committed to you. I think that has to be there because you will go through ups and downs. And if you're not committed outside of like an unconditional commitment, I think that's maybe more so what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Yeah. What about
I would just add really communication and trust. You have to have that. Like you have to communicate with the person. But I think really even more important, you have to trust the person, because if you don't trust the person you're with, that's going to cause different issues in which me and Eleny don't have to worry about. I know you and Mom don't have to worry about. So when there's somebody's out, when they're, even when they're texting somebody on the phone, it's a handful of people that you know that it is. And if it's somebody new, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to tell Eleny who it is. She's going to tell me who it is. You're going to tell Mom who it is. Mom going to tell you, or whatever the case is. And that's it. But that's because the 4 of us in our relationships, we trust each other, and that helps us be able to live and do different things and have that security in our marriages.
That's good. That's good. And it was great because I just finished a series on building trust in relationships, and I highlighted about some of the avenues that we need to go toward in trusting each other in relationships. So that's good. I'm glad you said that. It makes me look like I know what I'm talking about. In this relationship of 7 years, who made the first move? Matter of fact, let's change that question. You talked about, I know about the setup between you two, how y'all first met and everything. Give me a quick synopsis of how you and Eleny met, real quick.
All right. So I've practiced this because I do have a short, medium, and long version. So I'll cue the short. Well, long story short, what happened? I moved to Memphis, and my now brother-in-law, he recently had moved to Memphis at the time. And we found, we ran into each other because I was in residence life. He was in campus ministries and doing RA training. We met and found out that he had a girlfriend who happened to be an identical twin. We went to lunch. I learned a little bit more about him, his fiance. And then I learned Eleny existed. So I befriended him on Facebook to then find his fiance, to then find Eleny.
Facebook stalked me. Look at you.
And so, yes, I did Facebook stalk.
So that's stalking, yeah.
Yeah, I Facebook stalked her. And so I knew she was a Christian. She was a twin, so I knew halfway what she looked like. I knew she was in graduate school at Arkansas State. And I remember texting you, mom, dad, all my friends from college, like, hey, if this girl's not stuck up, she's going to be my wife. Now, mind you, I never said anything to her, even at this point, probably never even said anything to her sister, maybe except hi. But I was just so sure that she was going to be my wife. And so, we ultimately, fast forward, we met at a Memphis, Arkansas State football game. I spoke very briefly. I didn't even get the digits. I was kind of shy. Because I had a different plan. And then I found out that I think 2.5 weeks later, they were getting married. Her sister and my future brother-in-law was getting married. And I said, I'll make my move at the wedding. Ultimately, fast forward to the wedding. I waited to the very end. I got my opportunity. We sat down. I wanted to give her my number, but her number was in a makeup room. So she had to give me her number, which I didn't like because it went against my plan. Because fellas, if you're listening, you give her your number because if she hits you up, that means she's interested. And so because her phone was in the makeup room, I didn't get that. So fast forward, I was on the phone with my best friend after we left. And she was texting me, and he ultimately said, hey, man, she's trying to give you the hint to ask her out. Ultimately, because he was on the other line, I made the move. We went to Half Shells in Memphis. I think I was off Mendenhall, if I recall correctly, across the railroad tracks. And we had a 6-hour date in that restaurant. And we went to Sonic. We went to the park. I gave her a hand massage. We fell asleep in the car. And it got super late. And I said, oh, man, it's like 3, 4 o'clock. So I got to get you back to your sister's house. Dropped her off. And the rest is history.
All right. That's good. That is good. You sounded just like Tony Miller. I think that's how we roll.
Hey, that's it. Hey, that's it, me,
I
man.
feel like it's a lesson in this, y'all. And this is to the ladies. I don't know how many ladies are listening, but I feel like when a man knows, he knows. It does not take all this extra time. Like, okay, before meeting you, that's a bit of a stretch. I mean, but I think it took me 10 years to figure it out. No, it didn't. You knew already.
No, I agree.
I don't know. That's just my opinion.
I agree.
That's a good story. That is a very good story. Of course, yes, I knew it, but now my audience knows the history of when you guys first met. And so we're going to move on to the next question. You said earlier, Eleny, that you have 2 children. You're getting ready to have the second child next month, I believe, in a few weeks. How has having children changed your marriage, if at all?
I'd be lying if I say it hadn't changed it. It requires a certain level of intentionality that we didn't have to have before. And I think for me specifically, you carry all these hats. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a teacher, I'm a student, all these things. And so it's easy, like I can't really put down the teacher hat. That's how I make my money, right? I can't put down the student hat unless I drop out of school. I can't really put down the mother hat because I have a child who needs me for everything almost, but it's easier to put down the wife hat. And I found that I have to be more intentional about making time for us to keep us together. You know what I mean? In so many words, all the things that means. So it's definitely changed it. You have to be much more intentional. I've had to be much more intentional. And I feel like that sometimes because, like I said, that's the easiest hat for me to kind of lay down for a little bit and then pick back up later,
And because we're busy, we're doing different things. And we'll say, hey, to each other, like, hey, I'm tired tonight and I just want to go to bed. So we can't watch our TV show. We're not going to eat dinner tonight. I'm going to make a bowl of cereal. I'm going to eat what I want to eat. And it just happens. And I think so how it changes our life, how it changes our marriages. We see as we're early 30s, we're not in our 20s anymore. And so chasing a 2-year-old around and even trying to be up, when he first was born, up every 2 hours, that was different for us. And you're more tired and you realize that you're tired and you're just trying to rest and you're trying to balance the me time, the we time, and just being, period. And then everything else that you need to do. And so as Eleny said, it's easier to put the husband or the wife hat aside. You don't lay it all the way down because at the end of the day, you're still married. But it's just like, hey, they get it. They understand it. They're living the same life I am.
And sometimes I think that's true because, I mean, I feel like we've had points in our marriage where we understand, like, okay, there is about to be a brief season where we will not be giving each other as much attention. You know what I mean? Like, there are things that happen and we say, okay, no, right now I'm going to need a little bit of time. You're going to need a little bit of time. Like, we're still together, but I think that's a mutual thing. We sometimes even agreement we come to.
Yeah, because we know it's temporary. And I think that's important, knowing how temporary it is. And I think the other thing I would say is with the kid, you enter a kid into the relationship. I think it's a different level of sacrifice because you sacrifice in your marriage, but when you have a child, it's a different type of sacrifice. The sacrifices look different because you're sacrificing time. It's different things that you do that you sacrifice. And you know this because your mom sacrificed for me and Shauna, but I don't think you really understand those sacrifices until you have a child, as far as what you're willing to do so your child is happier so they can have, and then you go without because you're now living in it and you're understanding, oh, well, dang, mom didn't get this or dad didn't do that because of me or because of us. And I think it's just a different level and a different appreciation for sacrifice. I would definitely say that's something that changed when I became a dad and had both hats as a husband transitioning into a dad.
Okay, well, those are very good answers. And it just prompted me to think about, again, when I do premarital counseling, I urge the couples to some kind of way maintain their relationship the best they can, because there is a lot of sacrifices. You're sacrificing time and sleep because of you raising a child. So I always tell them to make sure they continue to date each other, because at age 18, when that child goes off to college, you don't want to be looking at each other and say, who are you? I hadn't seen you in almost 20 years. So I always urge couples to do that. All right. Dale, we're going to ask you this question. How did you know that you could trust Eleny?
Because we talked about it, and I knew who she was as a person. Honestly, I knew who she was as a person. I knew what she stood for. And I say this all the time to Eleny, but I put myself in a very vulnerable situation with her because I let her know how much I trust her. And I tell her, like, of all the things that I'm worried about in our marriage or happening to our marriage, I'm not worried about infidelity or her cheating on me in any kind of way, even emotionally. And I think that's one area of trust, because like I said, I know who she is. And I think that's important for you to know who your partner is. But I also knew I could trust her because of some of the things that I've shared with her. And then when we've gotten into arguments, her not bring some of those things back up to my face to try to hurt me. And so I think when we think about trust, we think from a faithfulness standpoint versus an emotional standpoint. And so I think it's very important. And so just in my different interactions with her, I knew that, okay, I've shared some information with her and she hasn't brought it back in my face when she's been justified to try to win an argument or make a point or just hurt me or take a dig. And so having those conversations and experiencing that while dating and ongoing as we're being married, those are just things that continue to build the trust that I have, that I've continued to develop for her or with her.
That's good. Good answer. Good answer. Yeah. I think I got about 3 more questions and we're going to get out of here. If everything ceases right now, we no longer exist, and the people who are left, what would these people say about you two as a couple?
I mean, I don't mean to sound arrogant, but I mean, I think simply put, I think they just say they're a great couple. I think they would say they loved each other. They were faithful. They did what they could to make sure their families was taken care of after they ceased to exist, as you put it. But that's honestly what I would say. I don't think we do anything spectacular. I think we just understand who we are together as a couple, and we really communicate or try to communicate with each other the best way that we can.
That's good. That's good. Eleny, you have anything you want to add?
You know, definitely not a perfect couple. So I don't think anyone would say that. But I do think and hope that people would say they were committed. They were committed to their marriage and to making that work. And so, yeah, simply put.
Okay. Who said I love you first?
Oh, I did. I did.
I don't even know if I remember that, being.
Yeah, I said it. We started dating at the beginning of November November 8th. And I think I might have said, I know I said I love you before I even asked her out. I think we started talking in October. I think maybe about 2 weeks later, I said I loved you, and I let her off the hook. So again, brothers, I'm just giving you some free game.
Yeah.
I told her, I said, look, I know how I feel about you. I said, I know I love you. And one day I will be in love with you, and you may not love me right now, but I know one day you will. And so that way, if she didn't say that she loved me back, one, she didn't feel obligated. But for two, I also protected myself. So if she didn't say, even though I was prepared for her not to say it, she was protected and not trying to just say something just to say it. But I protected my feelings and emotions by letting her off the hook so she didn't feel the pressure just to say it, because you usually feel that, oh, well, he said it, so I need to say it, or she said it, I need to say it.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't remember exactly when it was said, and now that I think about it, yeah, you said it first, but everything really just happened so fast. And even though he expressed himself first, I remember leaving our first date thinking, oh gosh, I think I just met my husband. Honestly, I really felt like that. And I tell people, a lot of women are like, is that real? Like, is love at first sight real? I'm like, I don't know if it's like love at first sight, but there is something that to me, and I've spoken to multiple women who feel this way, not just women, men too. I don't know. It was very obvious that like, oh no, he could be it. And so not I love you first for me, but I definitely remember feeling like, okay, I stepped into something real at this point.
And for the record, man, it didn't take a long afterwards. Now, like you said, I am Tony Miller, and honestly, and this is not to be funny, she alluded to it earlier, but after our first date, when she was about to leave, and I went to her sister's house to see her off, or she stopped at my apartment to say bye, we made the agreement that day that whoever we were talking to, we would cut them off and give each other a real shot. That we were going to try it because the timing for us, it aligned. It worked out.
Yeah.
She was obviously, I mean, she was 2 years older than me, but what she wanted and what I wanted, we were on the same page, and we really haven't looked back. And when we talk about relationships and couples and we see stuff on TV, we always talk about the importance of timing, because sometimes you have the right person at the wrong time, and you think it's a problem with you, but in reality, it's just the timing of everything. And so understanding that a lot of it has to do with timing and where people are in their lives.
That's good. That's good. I always like to hear from couples when they talk about who said it, I love you first, and get the general reaction of the person who doesn't speak first. So, Eleny said amen to it. So that's good. How important is forgiveness in relationships?
Ooh, I think it is key. I really do. I think, I don't know, when you think about, ideally, this is the person that you're spending the rest of your life with, right? And so this whole idea of like holding grudges and all this other kind of stuff with your forever person, that just would be miserable. And I think you think about forgiveness, oftentimes you think about the big things like infidelity, or they mishandled finances in a major way or something like that. But I think sometimes I have found that the forgiveness is really needed for like those small things, like that everyday kind of stuff that you have to deal with, the harsh word that person may not have meant, but they were in a bad mood, or that quality about the person that, like, as much as you hate it, you know that they will always be there. To me, those are the things that you have to, I've learned that okay, you just have to forgive and kind of get past that, because if not, you're going to be miserable.
That's good.
If that's going to be your person.
That's very good, Eleny. Dale, you have anything?
I can't add anything to that, except there's been a lot of forgiveness in our relationship. And I mean, honestly, it's hard to stay married if you don't forgive. That's how important it is. And so, I mean, I can crack the joke and say, if it wasn't for forgiveness, we wouldn't be married. But I think with any relationship, whether it's an intimate relationship, romantic relationship, or even a friendship or a partnership, you need forgiveness, because people aren't perfect. And something that my brother-in-law, Artez, he taught me when we first met and we were beginning our friendship. He talked about how at the end of expectations is disappointments. And so I think in relationship, I'm going to let Eleny down, because I'm always with her. I spend a lot of time with her, but she's also going to let me down, because there are certain things that we expect out of each other as husband, as wife, as friends, as partners. And when she does not meet my expectations and I'm disappointed, I have to forgive her, and vice versa. And I think we become really good at forgiving each other and not letting things fester, so we can move on. Because as she said, we're each other's people. Like, we're going to be with each other forever until death do us part. And so, yeah.
And I found that the quicker, the easier it is for me to forgive. So as you remember, I'm the one with the temper. So if anyone's going to hold something a little longer, it's probably going to be me. And so, but for me, the better I become at like letting things go, forgiving, all of that, the easier walking with him in life becomes. It becomes so much easier when I can do that.
Yeah, well, that's good. I want to say this. I can recall the first time I met you, Eleny. You were at my wife and I's 25-year vow renewal. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time. And it just seemed like all the family members were drooling over how beautiful you were. And for those in the audience, I still say that about my daughter-in-law. But the most spectacular thing about her that I kid her about is when we first went to Memphis and stayed with her in Memphis. And that first morning, she got up and cooked us breakfast and made these phenomenal homemade biscuits. And I told her in the kitchen, I said, listen, if my son act up, I'll marry you.
For some biscuits.
For some biscuits. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. But I think y'all are what I call a power couple. You're just on the fringe of what you're going to do in life. And I'm excited to kind of have a ringside seat of what you're doing and how you're raising my grandkid and soon to be grandkids. So I really appreciate both of you.
Speaking of,
here's the final question. And then after you answer this, then I give you the floor to close us out with any comments or anything you would like to share. But if a newly married couple came up to you guys and seeking advice, what are some of the things you tell them?
I'll go first to keep me short. I would say listen. That's important. I would say listen. And the second thing I would say, or listen to each other. And the second thing I would say, is to be on each other's team. Be on each other's team. Understand that it's y'all. Y'all are one, and it should always be y'all. And the last thing, which piggybacks off of that, is keep your business your business. There's going to be arguments. There's going to be disagreements, but at the end of the day, you're going to get over it. But sometimes friends and family and acquaintances may not. And so you want to make sure that if everything's not great at home, nobody else knows it. And I think you do a good job if things aren't great at home, but people think that everything is perfect. And that's the advice that I would give.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Eleny?
So, and I don't know if this advice is more for the women in a relationship or just maybe everyone. Your relationship is not going to look like everyone else's. And you need to go in knowing that and thinking that. And I think both partners need to have the expectation. You are carving out your own relationship. And so very practically between Tony and I, for example, there are some roles that are stereotypically assigned to men or women that we don't fit. For example, with our son, Tony is more intuitive with his needs than I am. And if I didn't come into the relationship and if I hadn't evolved to expect us to be able to do different things, I think that would be hard for me to accept. And there are a lot of things that we do that are kind of traditionally male and female, but I think you have to be willing to create the relationship that you want and that works for you. And that's going to look different than your mom's relationship and your sisters and friends.
That's good. That's good. In today's society, we're in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So many of those traditional walls have been broken down in relationships. And I, for one, am pleased that they are, because I think sometimes when we rock with some of the old stuff, we get stagnant and we don't really move or progress as forward as we should. Okay, well, I'm going to give y'all the floor. If you have any closing comments or anything you want to add, this is your time to do it.
I don't think I have anything. I just want to say thank you for having us on, allowing us to share our story with your growing audience. And hopefully it's what we shared is easy. I mean, not easy, but beneficial and helpful for your listeners, because I know early on in our marriage, when we were like 3 or 4 years in, I talked to Eleny about doing this and trying to help people. And we always talked about how we didn't feel like we were married long enough. And even though even though we've been married to be 7 years, we don't still feel like we're experts, but we've been married, we've made mistakes. We know what to do, we know what not to do, and sometimes still do it and have to pick up the pieces and start all over again. But it's like she said, every marriage looks different. Some men can tolerate it different than what others can. What some women can tolerate is different than what others can. But it's your marriage. You set the perimeters. You set the foundation and the groundwork for what it's going to be. But so I just thank you for having us on, and hopefully your listeners got something, even if it's just one nugget that could be beneficial and help them and just add to the value that you share with them on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Thank you for having us on. Definitely, like I said before, I don't want to come across like, oh, we know everything and da 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 da, because that's definitely not the case. But I've enjoyed this journey with you, Tony, and I feel like it's a journey. It's a learning process, and it's one of those things that I feel like 10 years from now we'll still be in this process of trying to learn and figure out how to do this right. So I don't know. Pick the right person to do that with, I guess.
That's good. That's good. You can't never go wrong with a Tony Miller, Eleny. You really can't.
No, I agree. I give y'all a lot of grief about that, but my experience has been great. So
yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. Listen, I thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to sit with me and just have this interview. I appreciate that. You've put some nuggets out there for some people to be able to pick up, and I hope my audience does. It has been a great time, and I just thank you so much. We're going to close out, but it has been important to hear from what a younger couple sees as important in marriage, and I thank you for bringing that flavor forward. Well, that's all I've got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it, but as always, I want you to remember, it takes two to make a relationship work.
Thank you for listening to the Relationship Therapy Podcast with Tony Miller Sr. We hope you have enjoyed this episode. Tune in next time for more insight on how to make your relationship better. If you have any questions, please email us at tmrelationshiptherapy@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Until next time, Remember, it takes two to make the relationship work.